Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about Vice President Kamala Harris, or is it Kamala Harris? I'm not exactly 100% sure. All I know is that the last refuge for the Kamala defender is to correct your pronunciation of her first name, and nothing could be more clear to the point that the left has given up on Kamala Harris than the fact that they're now trying to make the case that vice presidents mean absolutely nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't even think about her. Forget she's even there. Just think about Joseph R. Biden, but not too much because his poll numbers are also in the tank. Now we're going to cover this segment. It's absolutely hilarious in every possible way. But before we do, this video is sponsored, so let me toss it to the sponsor. Then we'll bring it back over here and we'll talk about it on the other side. You'll enjoy it so much. In November, Duke University dropped the results of a 12-month study into data brokers across this country selling the intimate personal information of U.S. military active service members and veterans. The researchers started off by identifying hundreds of data broker websites that were selling this information legally, and they then created a bunch of domains and emails at .asia addresses and contacted all these different broker sites in order to purchase the personal information of our service members, and the results were absolutely startling. All of these US-based companies were selling US service member personal information, including addresses, phone numbers, homeowner status, how much they donate to charity, to these foreign purchasers for as little as 12 cents per record, and they were able to capture the personal information of over 10,000 service members. Even worse, they were able to get the medical conditions, marital status, sexuality, information on the children, and of course the geolocation data, which is extremely problematic when you think about the fact that these people are serving in our armed forces, yet this information was readily available to foreign actors for as little as 12 cents per record. Now, as you might imagine, this exposes our service members to threats of blackmail and all kinds of crazy situations, but what you might not have considered is that the same thing is happening to you out there in the audience. This is one of the reasons why I am partnering with Aura. Aura is an all-in-one digital safety tool that can identify these data brokers, exposing your info, and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them, but they make it super hard to do so. Let Aura handle it for you. Now, Aura is a US-based company with a 100% US-based support staff, and they offer so much more than this opt-out service. They serve as a VPN and a credit monitoring service, and you can actually be insured for damages from identity theft up to $1 million. And when you compare Aura's pricing plan at $12 for an individual, you realize they can't be beat. On average, you're saving 78%. What you need to do is go to aura.com/AJW, where you will not only receive a discounted rate, but your first 14 days will be absolutely free. Try out the product, see if you like it, see if you enjoy the interface. It's a product that I trust, that I personally use. Again, that is aura.com/AJW, or scan this QR code in order to get on board now.
Thank you for joining me. The 2024 election is a year away, but we're voting for a president and vice president. The New Yorkers really care who occupies the number 2 spot on the ticket. They're weighing in on your point.
So I just want to point out that this segment on its surface, incredibly pointless and useless. New York is a blue state, at least presidentially, which means there's basically no chance that the Biden-Harris ticket does not win, at least in the state of New York. That being said, they're doing this segment to kind of make the case that any of your issues with Kamala Harris are not really a big deal, they're nothing to worry about, and this is due in large part to her incredibly high negative numbers, which, by the way, are higher than Joe Biden's negatives and the lowest in terms of approval rating for vice president in a very long time. And now, we've seen worse for vice presidents, but usually this is in and around the end of the second term. I believe Dick Cheney had something like an 11% approval rating when he left office. That was worse than the approval rating for George W. Bush. So vice presidents can be issues, but considering that Kamala Harris is basically hiding 90 99% of the time and is nowhere near as out front and in your face as Cheney, her disapproval being so high is really bad and reflects really poorly on Biden, who of course picked Kamala Harris because of the Black Lives Matter riots and for diversity reasons overall.
Does the vice president matter?
Of course.
Yes. Yes, it does.
The vice president matter? Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. All people matter.
So right off the bat, this segment has an incredibly low bar because Kamala Harris is incredibly unpopular, because people just do not like this person. Even people who prefer Joe Biden against any Republican or against Trump are not fans of Kamala Harris. They're starting it off by saying, does the vice presidential position even matter? And a bunch of people say yes. However, my favorite answer of this group is this guy right here, who said basically all lives matter, which is the bare minimum, saying that the vice president is a human being, therefore their life matters, and is not actually answering the question. Again, not really any solid praise for Kamala, although one person is going to try and fail miserably to make the case for Miss Harris.
Yes, and I actually like Kamala Harris, one of the few you're going to find.
So even this guy, who says that he likes Kamala Harris, gives the caveat that he's one of the few people you'll find on planet Earth that actually like Vice President Kamala Harris. I think this happens to be hilarious because the first mention in this segment about how you really shouldn't worry about the VP at all because it's no big deal due to the fact that it's a Democrat and incredibly unpopular right now because it's held by Vice President Harris. This guy's like, oh yeah, but I like her. I mean, I'm like the only person who likes her. Everybody thinks I'm absolutely insane, but I genuinely, legitimately like her. Trust me, bro.
That's a hard question.
Where do you come down on it?
Oh, Lord. I'm not sure.
So then this lady, because she's being confronted on the street and she doesn't know anything, says it's a hard question, but she is followed by one of the absolute best people of all time to be introduced into this segment. And honestly, this guy in particular giving this answer is probably the entire reason I'm making this video.
I don't think any of the presidents actually matter. I think it's a matter of like the Electoral College.
So first and foremost, I just have to make this clear. This guy is an absolute idiot in every possible way, despite the fact that he thinks he nailed this answer. He thinks he's smarter than everybody in the room because this utter buffoon said, I don't think any president matters. I think the Electoral College is what counts, which is an answer that he must have heard fifth hand from somebody, because obviously what is being referenced is the fact that the popular vote doesn't matter and the Electoral College is what determines the president. But this guy just phrased it in such a way where he thinks the Electoral College is what's running the country. Absolute buffoonery in every possible way. Now, to be fair to him, he does look like Emilio from Dangerous Minds, and we all know that Emilio was not that interested in school and actually got killed in Dangerous Minds, a spoiler alert. So for a dead man, I guess that this is a high bar of an answer, but for a normal person on the street of New York, this is an incredibly stupid, more stupid than average answer to a question like this.
Of course.
Why?
Second in command on Kamala. She's powerful. She's good.
Now look, the Electoral College secretly running the country and mattering more than the presidents is an answer that is too dumb objectively for me to say anything is going to be worse than that. But if there was a close second, it would be this guy's answer, where he says, yes, the vice president does matter. And then she asks why, and he says, second in command, Kamala. She's powerful. This guy's going full NPC mode because he knows that the politically correct answer is that the half-black, half-Indian woman who is currently occupying the vice presidential spot is somehow stunning and brave because she's a minority holding down that position. That's why he can't even form sentences to say why Kamala Harris is good. He just says, Kamala, she's powerful. She's good.
It's a partner to the president to check out decision making.
If the president is not feeling well, then the vice president has to step up. They should be just as strong as the president.
That's the lady, right?
So right after the guy in the wheelchair gave us the pathetic Kamala good NPC answer, we have these other answers which really go to show you that American education has been lagging for a lot longer than people would expect, because we have one person who seems to be under the impression that the president has to run decisions by the vice president, And then another person who thinks if the president gets sick, like if he gets a cold or something, then Kamala Harris becomes the temporary president because she's got to have his back, or some other such nonsense like this. The vice president fills the role of the president just in case the president passes away or becomes incapacitated. I don't know where you took history, where you took American civics, but no, this does not include a particular instance where the president gets the sniffles.
The vice president? Do you want me to be really honest?
Yes.
I feel like we live in a simulation.
I have to say, look, this lady on the street of New York, older lady, I'm impressed with her answer right here. That, look, we live in a simulation. It doesn't really matter because the whole world is fake. Everybody's on that blue pill nonsense, and I don't really care about the vice president because we're in a simulation. I love how the answers of the people who are sane are getting dumber and dumber, and then we have the punching in of insane people like this lady right here. And of course, the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm actually a node meant to keep you in the simulation.
What does the vice president do?
She assists the president.
Look, these people are absolutely struggling. They ask what the vice president does, and this woman leads off by saying she assists the president like it's Joe Biden's secretary, like she fetches his coffee, which honestly would be hilarious, and likely would be a more productive role for Kamala Harris than what she's actually doing. And then it's followed up by this next person who's like, she does a lot.
I think they do a lot.
Again, the most generic answer award goes to this individual in the wheelchair who's like, vice president Kamala, she's good, she powerful, she does a lot. I mean, come on, guy. Take a stand on your positions, stand firm on your beliefs, and stop just sitting back and regurgitating NPC nonsense right on the screen.
First blood succession.
Now, this guy right here with the beard who allegedly likes Kamala Harris, and I know he said he likes Kamala and he's rare in that regard, but let's be real, nobody likes Kamala Harris. He's just saying that in case some of his friends see it, and he's worried that he might be ostracized for telling the truth on the local news. At least knows that the vice president is second in line in succession for the president if something were to happen to him, but that really is the extent of knowledge that we get from people on the streets of New York City, which is really pathetic because this is a strong blue voting area. Manhattan is among the most blue, and these people don't know anything about American civics other than generic things and things that are not real but sound kind of okay. Like if you didn't read the book and you're going based on the title alone and you have to give a book report, that's what's being distributed out there in the public by everyday citizens of Manhattan, New York.
I don't know, they're second in command.
She'll take trips that he can't make. It stretches out the amount of work they can do.
Well, presides over the Senate if there's a tie.
Now look, if I'm grading these people, if I'm marking them up on their tests, I'm going to give that last lady at least partial credit because she actually named a duty of the vice president. And by the way, Kamala Harris in particular did preside over the Senate when there was a tie between Republicans and Democrats and did issue key votes on that. So a little bit of credit right there for that lady, but the one before her who said that she takes trips that the president can't take and that stretches out the work that they could do, nonsense, ridiculous, absurd. I'm not even giving you partial credit. You're getting an F on the test. You're embarrassing, especially since you kind of look like an elementary school history teacher.
I think they're all the places the president, there's only one person, can't be there all at once.
Seriously, what does this guy add to the segment at all? He just said, I think they're the places where the president, and the president can't be all those places at the same time because he's one person, so we have a vice president. Really genuinely pathetic performance by this guy in the chair right here. Honestly, I'm ashamed because he's wearing glasses. He got the bald head. He kind of looks like a professor. I would expect a little bit better of a guy who looks like a nerd, but this was pathetic in every regard.
Second, the motion of the president.
Whatever the president decides to her.
Now, this guy right here says that the vice president will do things that are assigned to them by the president. Again, he is by far and away the one giving us the most accurate information. However, this next guy really hits the nail on the head when it comes to this particular position.
They don't do much, to be quite honest with you.
True, factual, properly said in every possible way, the vice president doesn't actually do all that much. The vice president doesn't actually have that many official constitutional duties. In reality, the vice president is there for the line of succession for the office of the presidency, and that's about it. There's some ancillary duties related to the Senate and all that. There's the 25th Amendment thing, which has not yet been utilized in American history for the removal of a president who is incapacitated. But other than that, we don't got a lot of action from the vice president's office. There's not really a lot of involvement in terms of official duties, even though various presidents can assign them to do various things throughout their 4 to 8 year term.
What exactly does it? Coming to think of it, I was thinking of Kamala the other day. Our vice president, I don't see much of her.
So this lady right here says she was thinking of Camilla, our vice president, Kamala Harris, and honestly, she doesn't see much of her. She doesn't think Camilla is doing all that much, and I have to agree with her right there, although this is a deflection from the position of the vice president. Now we go back to Emilio.
What he does, is the second in command. Basically, if things go awry with the president, he steps in, and after him, if things go awry with the vice president, I think it's the general.
Emilio, no. First and foremost, I don't know if you caught that, but this guy seems to not be aware that the vice president of the United States is a woman. He keeps saying he and him for the vice president. Secondly, he says the vice president is second in command, but earlier he said that the president doesn't matter, there's the Electoral College, and even though he's able to figure out, despite thinking that the Electoral College runs the country and then the vice president, that the vice president is second in the order of succession, he then tries to show off a little bit more knowledge, just like earlier on, by saying that after the vice president is the general. The general takes over if something were to happen to the president, who's the Electoral College, by the way. Then the vice president, then it's the general. That's the order of succession in terms of our Constitution, don't you know?
I believe that, honestly, politics is run by deep state. And so I believe it's a puppet show.
So this lady who thinks we live in a simulation also says that there is a deep state that runs everything and it's a puppet show. And what I love about this is that right after this, they cut to the black guy who's actually been one of the more on point people in terms of this particular conversation. And guess what? He says this.
They puppets, but we're not gonna get into that.
Boom, right there. Horseshoe theory for you. Old white lady, young black men, both use the puppet analogy. It's absolutely amazing. But again, this just goes to show you how irrelevant the vice president's position is and how irrelevant it is to the average everyday voter.
Does a vice presidential running mate affect who you would vote for?
Yes, it won't this time.
Not really. Not for me personally.
So one of the final questions is whether or not the vice president is actually going to change who you're going to vote for, up or down. And what we find out from a bunch of people is that overall the answer is no, although one person says yes, and one gives the caveat that not this time because likely they're going to vote Biden no matter what. However, it really just goes to show you that the vice president position isn't all that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter all that much, which is the goal of the segment, to kind of tell people out there in the audience that you shouldn't be worried about the problems with Kamala Harris because people don't really care about Kamala Harris. That being said, we get one more gem from this lady, and I just want to give you this so you can have a slice of life about the American voting population.
I don't vote.
Because of that?
Because I believe that we live in a simulation that's run by deep state.
That's right. This lady says we live in a simulation. She also thinks the government is controlled by the deep state, and she doesn't vote because we live in a simulation that is also controlled by the very same deep state. Absolutely wonderful segment in every possible regard. And yes, I enjoyed this far too much due to the fact that there is a complete and utter lack of knowledge of what the vice president does as a position or anything related to Kamala Harris from a super strong Democratic voting base. Now, I will give the caveat that that lady who's talking about the deep state, likely not a Democratic voter, likely not a registered Democratic voter, likely somebody who leans more to the right, although she did say she doesn't vote at all because of the deep state simulation. But overall, that's just my opinion that this segment is wildly entertaining. The fact that people don't know much about the vice presidential position also amazes me, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This is me talking about people's complete and utter lack of knowledge of the vice presidential office. Till next time.